So good evening everyone. So for today, I'll tackle all about the legal, ethical and environmental issues. So before I start, let me quote from Richard Branson that business opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming. So there are three types of issues. First is the legal issues, the ethical issues, and the environmental issues. So first, let's tackle all about the legal issue. So what is legal issue? Legal issue is a legal inquiry, which is the establishment of a case. It requires a court's choice. It can likewise allude to a point on which the proof is undisputed, the result of which relies upon the court's understanding of the law. So a legal issue is simply what the court is deciding. It have documented definitions or laws with specific consequences if the laws are broken. So for example, buying an existing business like asset sale. So when you purchase the assets, you are buying items like equipment, fixtures, property, and goodwill. But you will need to form your own business entity and enter into your own contracts, leases, and loans. So buying only the assets means you generally do not acquire any liabilities of the existing business. And also leasing a commercial space. So when leasing a commercial space, be aware that you are responsible for the entire term of the lease. Like use a specialized realtor for commercial spaces, retail, office, industrial, or warehouse, and does the lease include additional rent for extra services? Another example for legal issue is financing. So there are three types of financing. First is the equity financing, the traditional financing, and the investors. So equity financing is the selling of shares or part ownership of the business as a means to raise money for the business. The traditional financing is a small business loans from financial institutions. And investors are the people who invest in the business for a specific amount of money with the promised rate of return based on percentage or set fee. So next is the ethical issue. So what is ethical issue? So ethical issues are guidelines set by a specific group of people with no real documented definition of what is right and what is wrong. So ethical issues happen when a given choice, situation, or action makes a conflict with a general public's ethical standards. These conflicts are once in a while legitimately dangerous, since a portion of the choices to settle the issue may break a specific law. So, what is ethical issue in business? So, how are companies and managers able to decide what is ethical? So society, using the political and legal process, can lobby for the passed laws that specify what people can or cannot do. So laws also specify sanctions and punishment. So there are ethical issues encountered in business and in labor. So in business, there are overpricing and false advertising. So overpricing is a pricing strategy businessmen taking advantage of the demand for a product or service and overprice to rake in profit. So in the effort to increase revenues, the price of products or services may be at unreasonable levels. The demand and supply of the product determine the price of a product or service. So there are also other pricing strategy like resale price maintenance, price discrimination, price fixing, and reciprocal dealing, tying arrangement, and exclusive dealing. So another example of ethical issue is the false advertising. So false advertisement is untrue or misleading information given to you to get you to buy something or to come visit their store. So those who make and sell products must honestly present their products, services, and prices to you. So I have here an example of false advertising, the bait and switch. So bait and switch is a tactic sellers use to get you to buy an upgrade of the original product on sale. So here's how it works. A store will advertise a product for a low price with no intention of selling it. When you show up, they will tell you how bad the advertised item is and how the more expensive item is much better. So the store baits you with a sale item to get you to go to their store. Then their salespeople switch the item by convincing you to get the better model that isn't on sale. So that's the example of the bait and switch. So another ethical issues is in labor. So there are child labor and discrimination. So in child labor, the children have rights that are made explicit in the Constitution and even in the United Nations Universal Human Rights. And in discrimination, it occurs when one is deprived of an opportunity because of gender, civil status, age, nationality, or race, and the like. So next is the environmental issue. So environmental issue is a known process such as resource consumption that has negative effects on the sustainability of the environmental quality necessary for the well-being of the organisms living in it. So here are some examples of the environmental issues affecting business: the deforestation, the pollution, and the climate change. So in the deforestation, it caused significant changes in operations, revenue, and expenditure. And in the pollution is one of the world's biggest environmental issues. But the business impact due to pollution stretches far and wide, with just one example pointing to how pollution affects the health of people, which then impacts medical costs and loss of productivity. Heavily polluted areas, for example, have a difficult time hiring and retaining workers. Waste disposal is another issue, with improper disposal resulting in foul smells, leaching into water supplies, and air pollution. And for the climate change is a global issue with serious implications including environmental, social, economic, and political. Factors like coastal flooding can have a major impact on business, leading to operational disruption and losses for organizations. So climate change can also create a higher demand for energy as the temperatures get warmer and there is a higher demand for air conditioning use. This means higher cost overall to businesses. Higher demand for energy also translate into increased use of natural resources like water and fossil fuels, which can then turn into a lack of resources for companies to turn into products. Many businesses have already started to implement automated response systems to combat these negative effects. So climate change also have a negative impacts on the cultural sector, which directly impacts the population in regards to food availability and safety. So the impact of environmental issues on water supplies can also result in harm to agriculture, a decrease in productivity, and higher cost. So that's all about the ethical issue, the legal issue, and the environmental issue. So thank you for listening.